The following is a fan-based discussion. All properties discussed are property of Toei Inc., Bandai, Hasbro, and Subaru Productions. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Tokucast Reviews, episode number 186. We are reviewing today, Marcus and Jacob here, to discuss Ultraman Arc.
It finished yesterday.
Yep.
It's like sort of the best part about this, because we don't have to wait a week. Unlike Boom Boom, which will be coming up soon.
Yes, that'll be coming up in February, but as with all of our reviews, this will be a spoiler review, so if you have not finished Arc and you want to, please do so, come back and watch the video later.
Actually, we do have a thing to do next week. I forgot about this as a recording, because the Guilds use your press conferences next week.
Yeah, that's true.
So we do have a video.
I was going to say, we haven't done our rumor cast for that yet.
Yes, we'll be doing that next week as of now. This week. Mm-hmm. Depends on when you want to start your week. My week starts on a Monday because that's when the pain starts. AKA
I got Monday off.
Oh yeah, it is MLK Day in the United States, but I don't get that day off. I get it as a floating holiday, so I get Black Friday off because of it.
Well, there you have it, folks. But Ultraman Arc.
Nothing else is happening Monday either.
No, nothing.
Ultraman Arc though.
Yes, something nice.
We talked about the opening before.
Yeah,
I still think it's just fine.
It's good. I was thinking about the Gav opening and what we had said about that during our first impressions.
Yeah.
And how it's a song that you're waiting for the beat to drop, you're waiting for it to pick up, but it never does. And then this one does what that one does. Like, this one does have the pickup.
Yeah.
It does start strong, it finishes strong. I think it's all right.
So, in regards to this show proper, everything happens 16 years before the start of the actual first episode. Although we don't find out about that until episode 3 with K-Day and Arc actually coming to Earth for the first time. Monogelos, that first monster showing up. The way that this story is told throughout the series, where so much happens prior to the show actually starting.
There was a lot that happens prior that they then explain later.
Yeah. I really appreciate how that story is told, although it does end up giving a little bit of a in the middle, well, at least in the early bits in some cases.
Well, in the early bits, it's very much, it feels formulaic.
It's very standard.
Not to say that in a negative way, but it is like, we have our team of, like our agency that is like out to skip in this case, which for this one, I actually really like what they did. Because usually it's, in the case of like Scarred or any of the other ones, Guts, they're the organization that is actually trying to fight the kaiju. And then Ultraman is like one of them. In this one, Skip is, they're scientists. Yeah. It's scientific kaiju investigation and prevention center.
Yeah, they're much more the investigators.
They investigate, they observe and report. Their job is to monitor situations and then report to the GDF. That's the organization, the Global Defense Force, that is actually there to stop kaiju.
It's also interesting.
I like this dichotomy more.
Looking at this in the terms of coming off of like the original Ultraman and Ultra 7 with the Science Patrol being sort of both in one. And this time it's, we're actually going to split it to delegate.
Yeah, because in that one it was kind of like the Science Patrol and whatnot. It was people who were enthusiasts. Yeah. Not necessarily like a government-funded organization, which is what Skip is. That's working in tandem with the GDF.
And still better than...
Because they have multiple branches throughout Japan.
And still better than Orb. God.
Most things are better than that one.
The SSP, man. I fucking hated
that.
But yeah.
The SSP were just like a bunch of high schoolers who were like, let's go investigate the kaijus. Nothing bad will happen there.
And then everything bad happened.
But yeah, the first like 12 or so episodes, it's, going through day-to-day life. There's a disturbance. Kaiju shows up. Ultraman beats the kaiju.
Introduction of various people like Yuma's grandmother, Abared. I know
as their commanding officer, but it's the same actor again.
Yes, it's Abared, and anytime that they were doing press for this show, he somehow snuck the Aba Ranger infos into it. The man's amazing.
He knows what the fans want, I guess you could say, but he's also really good in this show.
He's great.
He's very good in this.
He plays a similar role, in all honesty. Plays that dad role. Like, he did Nava Ranger, but
yeah.
he's much more experienced at it at the moment, especially because he has an actual daughter.
I was gonna say, he has an actual daughter. He's also so much older now.
Yeah. 20 years.
He's like aged into that mature role, and I think very well.
The integration of sort of the GDF liaison with Shu. Boy, do I have things to say about the end of this show.
Oh my goodness. There was a moment at the end of this show.
We'll talk about it. But yeah, the first 12 episodes...
that I just felt tingles up and down my spine, and they all said, Marcus.
You knew.
I knew.
But the introduction and the integration of him with the team, because he comes off as a little bit standoffish and stiff at the beginning of the show, Shu does. And then, especially through Yuma, he ends up really integrating with the show.
Yep.
But the first 12 episodes, up until Givas shows up, which was my favorite, because I binged this show throughout this week. Yeah. It was my favorite episode of the show until the White Mask Man came in, and that became my favorite episode.
Yeah, the White Mask episode, which is episode 23, I believe.
Yeah, it's like one of the last 3 episodes.
There's 25 in total.
Oh, man. But
that was good stuff.
I want to talk about my girl.
Okay.
Swede. Her actress gives 10,000% in everything that she does. She's so over the top. But I think this sort of solidified it was the scene when they're in the theater.
I love that scene so much.
It's so good.
I love that scene. So Swede is essentially is working for our big bad. Zesu, who we never really see.
We see his head.
But he never like shows up on Earth to confront Ultraman.
Yeah.
But I just love that Swede. It's like Ultraman. This is the episode where we get the backstory.
Yeah, about
this is the first time we hear Arc speak.
Yes,
because Blazer never spoke.
Well, he was a caveman.
I know, but still, like Blazer never spoke. He never articulated his feelings verbally and whatnot.
He had to show you through cave pictures.
We just had that great scene of like Yuma and human-sized Arc just sitting in the movie theater, and the movie theater is like showing footage of like his life, and they're talking to each other, and Yuma's getting the backstory. It's really well directed.
From Sun Sophia, like pretty much going supernova, and Ruiton, who is Arc, his planet trying
Is this the first time Ultraman has ever been given like a name like this?
Maybe. I can't say for certain.
Because I know we have like Leo,
we got Jack.
Jack and whatnot, but like
Jack's name came later though.
But like to Earth, he is Ultraman Arc. That's what Ishido names him.
Well, no, because Ultra Mother's name is Maria, and the Ultra King's name is Ken.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they have had names before, but I do love we had the whole thing about what was going on. Their sun was going supernova. They were like, okay, so we have this group of scientists, and we're going to try to funnel the energy from the sun and actually make it go back to regular
was the
sun.
one who came up with the idea. We're going to create a wormhole. It's going to siphon off the energy of a dying star.
Yeah.
And plop that energy out somewhere else in space, flush it away.
Well, it was actually sort of like it was funneling it and sort of like branching it off, but the place that it was supposed to go to,
the exit point was exactly over where Earth was. Which I have a question. That's so much space! You couldn't have just parked it somewhere else?
You never told me.
No, they didn't. Sisu was like, no, that wouldn't be evil enough. Don't you understand?
It pretty much was, because the rest of his planet was like, no, we don't want to, incinerate the Earth immediately.
It's like, we will not sacrifice other lives to save our own.
Yeah.
And Sisu was like, but if we do this, it will be evil.
No. It's like, but you don't get it. This is a straight line, and I don't want to move it.
I don't want to do that. That requires math. I don't want to do that.
We've already done too much math. So we're just going to go straight up 180 in that direction.
And Swede is a Zissou true believer.
She is the moment. I love that scene in the theater where it's Arc and Yuma, because they're sort of like in a mirror world at that point. But it's Arc and Yuma sitting on this side. Sweet just comes in, plops her feet up and everything. She can't see them because she's in the real world of the theater. And then she looks to their left. And I love the way that the camera angle shows it, where it sort of twists. And she has like this really strange smile on her face.
But of course we have to talk about what happens when because at the end of this freaking episode, dude, because Arc is explaining, what's going on and who he is, and Yuma's finally getting that backstory, and Sweet's counter argument is, no, don't do the other thing, because it's evil. And it ends with her. What does it end with her saying? What does it end with her saying, Marcus?
I can't remember what she said.
Muda, 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 muda!
I remember I said Dio in my head. But I think it's also the hilarious part of it when Yuma's sort of outside of his body and they go into Skip and Yuppie can see them. Well, sort of see them.
Yuppie can see Swede, yeah.
I love that.
And then at the final battle when Arc is confronting the kaiju at the end, and Swede is using her mind control powers to drain his energy. And he's like, oh, fine, I'll show you. And Yuppie just takes a picture, and they have to zoom in and hands it like, wait a minute. And then she's just there floating in midair.
A woman?
Yeah. Dressed in all black, with evil bangs.
Being the best.
You don't say.
She's just so good. I was like, as soon as she came into the show, I locked in. But I will say, because there are honestly a lot of high points in this show. The Givas episode,
great episode.
2 episodes.
It's a 2-parter, yeah.
Were great. Thinking that they came to be his enemy, but no, it turns out he's going to be his friend.
It was a mistranslation, yeah.
And Yuma climbing up and opening the thing into the
Shadow
dead
of
alien.
the Colossus style, just scaling that big robot.
It was crazy. I loved this show a lot. Not as much as Blazer, but I liked it a lot. The Givas episode was a definite high for me in this show. Just seeing that, and then having Givas come back another time later on in the show, having that wormhole appear in the middle of the air with the ghost, and having our favorite boy, Mr.
You're talking about Space Samurai.
Zangief come back.
Space Samurai's back.
And I was just like, oh, right. He was just in Blazer pretty much doing the same thing. And then we actually got to go see Blazer.
We go to his dimension.
Where it's basically all the same characters, but now they're part of Scarred.
Because he meets Au Ichido.
Yeah, he meets Shu in the other dimension, because of course he does. But, but I really appreciated just the way that they got to input Blazer into this. But I do want to, before we get there, because they built it up throughout the latter half of this show, and weirdly enough, the Twitter account for Ultraman sort of alluded to it in this, but the white mask episode, you could tell something was off immediately because of the way that the
color
episode,
filter,
that it was desaturated to hell. And man, oh man.
Because it starts off, we have a Yuppie who we haven't really talked about him, but he's the android AI assistant.
He is the mascot.
Yes, who I actually really liked.
I liked
him. I thought he was well used, and I like his design.
I thought he was fine.
As far as Ultraman mascot characters go, I think he might be one of the best. I
like him. He's our favorite Shadow Boy from
Peepo.
Yes, from G-Dle.
Yeah, Peepo's great, but
he's the best.
There's something about Yuppie's design that I really like. I like the roundedness of it. I like the way the head can break off and it can be 2 separate entities. It does lead to one of the funniest moments in the show.
U-Bot and P.
It starts out with Yuma and Yuppie flicking Yuma's shoe into the air, seeing if they can get it to land right side up, and if they do, then it'll be clear skies. And on his way home, he realizes he forgot his umbrella.
Yeah,
and he goes to a local store.
It was his favorite umbrella. He couldn't find it, because he could not remember the last time that it rained.
And he goes there and he asks if they have any umbrellas for sale, and the sales lady is like, "Umbrellas?
Casa."
And she goes inside and they don't know what he's talking about.
And then when Rin tries to look up when the last time that it rained, Yapul, which is the name of the search engine.
Yapul.
I thought that was so great.
Of all the, frugal search, bling blang, whatever they use a fake search engine in movies and TV, this immediately has taken the crown as number one. Yapoo.
I literally thought that
Yapoo.
We got baited because I thought Yapoo was going to show up because of that.
Oh.
And then he didn't. I was like, oh, you fool! Nope. But I really enjoyed just how, as the episode went along, people really started losing their memories because the man in the white mask is trying to get to his version of paradise.
The chief, he owns a cafe now.
Yeah, he talked about it.
Yuppie is the name of his dog.
Yeah.
Because Yuppie doesn't exist.
Yeah, Yuppie doesn't exist. Rin just straight up disappears, and so does Shu. But they all end up working at the cafe.
Oh, the way that happens. When like, Rin disappears, it's just like she's with Yuma, and they're just talking about what's going on. And like
they're talking about a paint store that used to be there. Or like it was an art school, or like a little miniature art school. Mm-hmm. And she's just beside him, and then she's
just gone.
And I think what made it worse, Shu is last to disappear. But I love the way that it happens. They're just standing on the railroad tracks. The train goes by. Shu sees the man in the white mask. After Yuma sees him, Yuma's on the phone with Shu, and the next thing you know, Shu's just gone. I was like, oh, the atmosphere. Mm-hmm. It was so good.
You know, the thumbnail for this episode shows the man in the mask.
Yeah.
It shows him. And I couldn't help but think, as a joke, is he going to remove that mask and there's going to be an apple in his face?
To the painting.
The painting Son of Man. And when it actually happened, I screamed. Because I called it.
But it makes so much sense. He's looking for paradise, which is basically the Garden of Eden. Mm-hmm. And his whole thing was to remove basically any and all true emotion. Man, it was messed up. I loved episode 24 when Sweet tries to convince Yuma that it was all a dream.
You know, I thought to myself earlier on in the show, is there a chance because of the way Yuma's backstory and the way it happens, with like the last thing you see being that monster's horn coming towards him, lands on the ground, and we see the hands come up and like stop it just in time. Is there a chance that they might pull a "this is all a dream" and this has all been going inside of the mind of a comatose child? When this scene happened and the way it's being broken down, I was very worried because I didn't want that to happen.
Also same.
Because I didn't want that to be the case. But
very much.
Sure enough,
it was sweet.
Yeah, it's just sweet using her tricks.
Yes.
And because Arc actually shows up.
Yeah.
In his mind, it was like, no, stop, it's a trap, and he's like, oh, of course. But they also do a smart thing of cutting back to Shu and the others.
Yeah.
And showing them looking for him after a big blast has happened.
You know what always ends up happening when something like that happens? Like, oh, it could be a dream. I automatically think about Dragon Ball Z Abridged. How'd you know about all the stuff you weren't there for? Like, every time. How'd you know about all the stuff you weren't there for? But he's under a whole thing of rubble.
He's under the rubble, and it's like he hears people calling his name, and he reaches up, like in the dream he reaches up, and then you see the hand, like out of the rubble,
and Shu
is standing right next to him, as if preordained by the hands of fate.
I think the biggest thing about, like, especially the end of this, when he's sort of getting to the dream world that the kaiju brings along to him with Swede's assistance, because you got Helnarok, who came in earlier, but then you also have Zetsu sending
the dream kaiju.
Well, sending the kaiju period down to him after a little bit, when he ends up taking like the Zetsu gate into him, which gives him sort of his final form, Arc his final form. That's how he sealed the original.
Yes, because early on in the show, we see Shu, like after an incident has happened, like on the phone with his superiors in like a kind of a shady way, being like, "No, we don't have any evidence yet. I'll keep you posted." Hangs up the phone. Turns out what he's looking for is what they're calling the Onyx.
Yes,
which is essentially the Sisu Gate condensed into like a rock, and that's what he has been using to transform.
Yeah.
And we learn in these final episodes that Arc has condensed that into himself. And this is what's giving us our motivation for Arc has to leave at the end of the show because he has to go dispose of this thing.
He also has to stop Sisu.
Yeah.
Which is sort of this... Okay, I heard about this yesterday. Apparently the movie takes place in between episodes 21 and 22. And I'm just like, that's disappointing. It feels like it should come after.
I mean, the way the show ends, I would like to see something after.
Yeah, that's depressing.
But
yeah, we would definitely like to see something after.
I know you would.
I don't want to talk about it yet because I know we're going to go on a rant for like 30 minutes.
I know. We'll get to it.
But I do love the fact that, he gets trapped into this really bizarre dream world. It's like they're eating, but there's no food. And there's just a bottle of water.
And it's his parents, yeah.
Yeah. With his parents who died.
Everything is so empty.
Who died at the beginning of the show 16 years ago. Yep. And then we go up and he
runs through the wall, opens a door in the wall to another place, and then he sees himself as a kid in the event where his parents were killed. But the way they do this, where they're shooting it from a different angle this time, his POV, and we can clearly see that the actors playing his parents are lying on mats, on safety mats that are gray colored to blend in, I'll say, because you can clearly tell they're there.
Yeah.
But, I guess they're stunt pads that you would bury in a situation like this. But
they do it on purpose.
But yeah, and then they just kind of stand up and the clearly fake rubble and twigs just kind of fall off of them. And they tell him to go and live and
say goodbye to Arc.
Say goodbye to Arc. That's the thing that keeps coming up is Swede wants to get him to say goodbye to Arc, relinquish the power, submit.
She keeps being, the Pink Ranger. And keeps being in disguise the entire time. So she ends up disguising as his dad on top of a roof.
His dad, but then he leaves that situation, and then the dad from that situation takes him to a rooftop, and they have a conversation. But then his actual parents show up, and they just tell him to run.
And it's Arc.
And it's Arc using his remaining vestiges of power to get through to Yuma, and he does. He shoots the glowing weak spot. He beats the Dream Kaiju
with the GDS help.
Yep, and then Swede decides, then I shall become the Sisu Gate, and she becomes a big kaiju, and then the greatest scene in the history of ever that has ever been filmed freaking happens. As I was telling you before we started recording, I finished watching the show this morning. If at any point during this time period, any of you around the world heard some sort of gleeful shrieking, that was me watching Ultraman Arc get up to Sisu. Point blank range, dude. L-shot. Hits it into overdrive to the point where it starts pushing him backwards. And Ultraman uses his L-shot to loop himself around the globe. Like Richard Donner's Superman, we see a shot of the Earth with a blue line going around it. And he shoots himself around the Earth to the point where he is back to back with Swede, still blasting away. And call back to something he did in the previous episode where he was able to curve the shot.
Oh, in episode 2.
In episode 2, when he curved the shot and took the monster out with a shot to the neck.
So cool.
Which freaking ruled. And now this. He does it again. You see him whip that thing up and like a sound wave going around the world. There goes the L shot, and it gets to Sweden. Headshot. Takes her out with a fucking headshot, and it's the greatest thing I've ever seen.
I was freaking out.
And then, because they were back to back after the headshot, Ultraman just slowly walks around and walks away from the explosion better than it has ever happened in any movie or show before. It's the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Cool Ultras.
Ah!
Don't look at explosions. And I think the biggest thing about this, because he has those 3 other forms which he can use. I mean, he can go through like space portals and everything.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing about Arc is the fact that a lot of his stuff comes from his imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't always have to use these other forms. Although the one time that he went like berserk and just got all 3 of his forms out at the same time, it was so cool. But doing something like that, I was freaking out. I watched this after Drag Race last night. Oh. So it was just like, this.
So you were in an extra good mood.
Yes, it was great. It was so good. It was so cool. I couldn't believe it.
It's amazing.
It was everything I didn't.
It's the best.
It was everything I didn't know I needed. That's what I felt about that. And then. This show has been setting up like this weird relationship between Shu and Yuma throughout most of, like, especially the back half of it. Because a lot of the interactions for the show ended up happening between the 2 of them.
Prior to this, there was a moment where the Dream Kaiju is clearly targeting Yuma. Shu notices this. And there is a line that he says, as it's like, get in this van, we're driving away. And he tells him, I can't lose you.
Ship has sailed. The ship has sailed. Bon voyage, bitch!
Crack the champagne on the hull.
I'm serious. Like, oh, we're doing this. I couldn't believe it. You know, I think the only thing that sort of held this back...
At some point, I felt a gentle hand on my back, and then it squeezed a little harder, and I said, Marcus, it's you. I feel your presence.
This has been like sort of the year for really thinly veiled Toku BL. Ever since like Dawn Brothers. Really, no. Ever since like Zio, in all honesty, with the writer time Ryuki. Because they're just like, what if gay? But this I was just like, after Dawn Brothers and Sonoi and Taro, and then you saw a little bit in King Oja, but I'm not going to talk about that one. But especially with this year with Boom Boom. And now with this, I'm serious. Like, this is the year of Toku BL, and I'm here for it.
It's a streak. It's a streak they are keeping up.
And man, oh man, should they? Because he's had that watch since he was a kid, and you know he has to go get rid of the Onyx and the Zetsu Gate, and actually go fight Zetsu.
So he's bidding farewell to his compatriots, and the last thing he does is he gifts that watch to Shu. He's like, hold on to this for me. I'll be back for it.
I'm sitting here like at the end of this, I was just like, Choo. Kiss him, you fool.
But it leads to a moment of physical affection that I was not expecting them to do.
Same.
Because he grabs his whole hand. He doesn't just take the watch, grabs his full hand and pulls Yuma into a hug. And, you know, tells him to come back and whatnot. And I heard Marcus's voice saying, now kiss.
Their ship name is Shuma. Give me this. Look, I know whatever season is coming up next, we don't need everybody to come back. Amaret's probably just going to show up in Gilzuger at some point. Let's face it, that actually might happen. But we don't need everybody back. We just need Shu and Yuma back for the next series. I need that. Give it to me. You can't. I was fed almost. I'm still a little hungry. So I'm just going to need that to happen next series because I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, are they going to do it? They did it. They did it. They did it. Almost though. Because I'm you fool.
And then we do a little time skip. It's been a couple of months. Shu is heading back to GDF.
Still has the watch.
Everyone's just kind of going about their day. Everything's been pretty slow. Kaiju incidents have slowed down. And the last thing Yuma said before he left was he's like, when I come back, I will call the hotline. There's a fun little line from the chief where he's like, well, that's against protocol, but I'll allow it. And the last thing that happens, we get that ring. The call line rings, and then we cut to black, cut to credits. And I wish that's where they'd ended it. I wish it had just ended there, but we do get a little more footage over the credits of Shu picking up the phone, and you just hear the theme song. You don't hear what anyone is saying, but I think it's pretty clear from their reactions that Yuma has returned.
Yeah.
Because they are all very, very excited. It's like all four of them just like yelling at the same time and just freaking out about how happy they are that he's back. And yeah, that is the end of Ultraman Arc.
Give it to me. I need their reunion because you left on the most BL moment between the two of them. Oh. I can't believe it. It's so. This show on the whole is so good, but that gave me that extra layer. I'm just like, yes, bitch. Yes. Man, I like this show.
I think it ends in a very strong way. I think it does have.
It meanders a little bit.
Not every episode is great.
You know what it reminds me of? That first part of G. When they're still like gathering all like the king sparks and everything.
I was going to say this is on the same. This whole show is on the level of like G to X for me. It's a really good one.
Yeah,
maybe above X and below, and like on the same level as G.
Because G gets really good after they do like all the King Crystal stuff, which is like the first 2 episodes of that show as well. And it's just like, okay, once we get to that halfway point, something happens, and it ends up leading to the rest of this. I think the biggest thing that ends up helping this show is like. When they end up going to the mountains and staying at that inn with the alien who's coming back later, who I really liked.
Yeah.
Numa. Everything in this show is just good. Because there's always like a lead up. I was like, oh, why did the kaiju come? Well, because of the fact that Onyx is the Earth and it keeps waking up everybody.
Mm-hmm. It's got a good script. The acting is really good. I didn't find anybody annoying.
Which is always the main part. Man, remember Taiga?
No.
Trigger?
No, not really.
There's a reason for that.
I know those are shows we reviewed. Do I remember much about them? Not particularly.
Tiger was only good in the voice parts and the movie. Because his dad's former not boyfriend showed up. But it was the main antagonist of the show. Trigger had the main problem of having everybody be not likable.
But the show has that opposite problem. Everyone's good. Also, the action is great. They do some incredible stuff with the camera in the show. Just some really good fight cinematography.
It was one of the last episodes.
Just like general camera work as a whole.
It's one of the last episodes when like they're fighting. It was against the monster that wasn't real. Or not the monster that it looked like it was supposed to be. It was like that crystal one. And like they had the monster flying. And
by any chance, are you talking about the car? Where the camera goes in.
Yeah. The van.
Where they do a lot of long takes. And there is a lot of, like hidden cuts and like trickery to make it look like it's one take.
Yeah.
But it's, for all intents and purposes, it's a one take shot where Ultra is fighting this monster, and in that chaos, cars get thrown up into the air. We're looking, like the way it starts is we're looking at them from above.
Yeah.
It's shot from below, we're looking at them up. And then a van gets knocked into the air along with a bunch of debris and other vehicles. The camera goes up into the van, turns around 180 degrees, and we are in the sky looking down at the fight going down on the ground. And we see like the car and everything fall back down.
It feels like it happens so often when we talk about Ultra.
Yeah.
It's like they'll do something really like sort of out of pocket in some of their camera angles and stuff. But I'm just like, they do it because it's cool.
It's cool. They're talented people working on it. They know they clearly have put a lot of thought into this.
Yeah.
I think about shows like Rube, where we are trying to prioritize comedy. And it feels like we made up something on the day of for the fight scene that we're doing.
Yeah.
And then with stuff like this, where we have that first one take in the first episode.
Oh, with
the timer, dude. Where we are going through and it's like the camera is following him every step of the way. When we see him fall down and get up through windows of buildings that have been clearly worked on with love and care because they are full of miniatures. There are, like, people, like, they have, like, insert shots that they have digitally inserted of people running up to the windows, running away when, like, Ultraman puts his hand on the window and the glass cracks. We see, like, textbooks on shelves that have been like painted with the spines have been painted. And there are like bicycles and like TVs with actual footage playing. And that scene in episode 3, I think it is, with the Jumbotron, where like Ultraman gets hit towards the camera and then he comes through a Jumbotron on the wall because it was being filmed elsewhere by a real camera. Whew.
Super Rad has been so good at the things they do with their camera. Like, although we watched it recently, it's like you can see the span in between these two shows where you even have like the smoking episode in Ultra 7 to this. And it's just crazy. Although it doesn't hold a candle to my favorite Ultra 7 bit, which is just him peeking over the mountain. But yeah.
I'm so small.
I'm here too. But God, I really liked Arc.
It gets my highest recommendation.
It's so good. And there's no loved it. There's a little bit of a connection to Blazer. But there's no like true connection to anything that came before it. And once
Gento gets mentioned by Space Samurai, but we don't
by name.
He does.
No, yeah, he does.
He says, so you have need of a secret identity. Well, Gento didn't need that.
Yeah. So it's just the same one. But man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. After coming off of Turbo Ranger, man, oh man, oh man, am I just so excited that we got something like this, like BL. Go watch Arc.
Please do.
Next up, something that we filmed prior to everything happening in November. We have the Geats movies.
Yes.
So those will be coming out. So if you notice some of the figures not on the table, that's why.
Yeah.
And after that, well, somebody did just stop the Boom Boom, but we'll be starting the Boom Boom once that show ends in a couple of weeks.
Mid-February, I believe, is when we will be reviewing Boon Boonja.
Yeah.
So look forward to that.
Very excited. Don't stop Boom Boom. But somebody just did. But yeah, let us know what you thought about Ultraman Arc in the comments below. Don't forget to join us on all the things, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for watching.